Okay, I've already talked to people about what I've been doing using Midjourney and getting in an AI art. What this video is about my opinion of V5. And I found out that 4A was a different. So if you use um, dash dash style 4A whenever you're rendering on V4, you're going to get different kind of imagery than you will with style 4B uh, on version 4 and version 5, and all the way up to version 5. Version 5 will not produce the same sort of imagery as 4A. And so V5 does produce some interesting imagery, but it doesn't, the prompts are not going to produce the same sort of imagery as they did with 4A. And I just got this feeling that V5 really wasn't an upgrade in the style of content that it was producing. And I had this idea that it might be that their user base is not scaling, that their paid users are not scaling with their unpaid users, and that as a result of that, that might result in them downgrading their computational resources that are applied to diffusing content on version 5. They're doing V5 at a higher resolution. You can do 1024 by 1024, whereas before they were doing 512 by 512. And if you do a different, um, I think if you do a different ratio, you're not going to get an equivalent amount in that ratio unless it's some multiple of the original resolution, which is I think how they do it. It may not be, but the older versions before V5 had a limitation on that you could only use 3 2 2 3 or 1 1. You couldn't use a 16 by 9, which you can use in V5. So they may have increased the resolution on V5, or they may just be doing the rendering in a different form. But something definitely has changed, and I don't know if it's for the better. And I was presenting my misgivings probably in the wrong chat section of Midjourney, which was the learning basic area. They didn't have a learning pro area. The most people were in the learning basic, and I just wanted to share that with them just to see if anybody else was having problems with that. And I guess they were teaching some of those people in there, and the guy who's teaching, uh, I think, was the guy who locked me out. But they didn't lock me out until I had gotten into topics such as how SGIs ended up not being the controllers of the market that they produced, and what it had done to the market, and other technologies that I was familiar with, like the Migas and how they worked. Um, I guess the guy who was training people were getting questions from the users about what my discussion was about in comparison to what they were doing, and was having problems. I don't know if that was the case, but they locked me out of that chat session. Then but they didn't only do that. They locked me out of everything, including member support in the Midjourney bot. So I couldn't even do any Midjourney whatsoever because they just disagreed with either what I was talking about, or or that they were just not getting me to shut up. They have options. They can block me off. They can kick me out like they do any other kind of supposed troll. But do they lock out trolls the same way? Do they prevent them from ever using the public areas? Do they prevent them from ever going to member support? Do they prevent them from using their Midjourney bot? They did all of that to me just for being off topic in the chat area, and also probably for what I was saying that might have been contrary to what they were trying to do, which was probably control their user base. Keep in mind that the things that they've been doing to their user base in the Midjourney prompts is limiting the words they can use. Only totalitarian governments do that sort of thing. You know, go in and limit what you can say, like China is. You know, if anybody says "damn" over there, that could get you in jail. You know, and what kind of action do they take? They throw you in jail. They don't say no. Don't say that word. They don't. I mean, they limit everything. And the way that I see that from a Christian point of view, or my specific Christian point of view, is that Jesus denied what the devil tempted him to do, which was control the world and worship the devil. And it's God's free will. God gives everybody free will. To deny anybody free will is a sin. So if somebody's not hurting somebody else and they're doing something, there's no reason to control that person. There's no reason to tell them you can't do this, you can't do that. You can't say that. You have every right to go someplace else. You know, if they're chasing you around, that's a different thing. But this is what they were doing to me. So they're limiting what we can say in our Midjourney prompts. Like, you can't use the word clothes because they're afraid that you're going to say no clothes. They seem to know that the AI bot is going to create whatever you want, and the only way for them to prevent you from creating NSFW type output is by limiting your access to certain words like clothes. So you can't say render this person without clothes, you know, because they risk something there, commercial or whatever. They do that. And the other thing is they put up this idea that we're creating an environment that is suitable for children because we think children are going to be using this. And it's possible that there are children using it, but we don't see them in our chat sessions. We don't hear little voices coming in and asking us questions. That doesn't happen. What we hear is adults practically all the time. Every now and then we'll hear a foreigner inside of Discord chat. And those foreigners will form their own groups, you know, but some of them will try to speak English and we'll let them do it, you know, and we'll try to interact with them as much as possible. But they'll end up, if they get kind of overwhelming or if they have too much noise in the background, they end up getting kicked out of the chat session. But I don't think they completely lock them out of Midjourney like I'm getting locked out. So I've got to be doing something they really disagree with about me, or they found that I've tried to do some stuff like NSFW content and they don't like that, and they're thinking I'm going to do something nasty or unpresentable in their area. But that's my own choice. If it's not hurting any children, then, you know, what's the problem? And so what I was thinking is what they should do is they should provide a Midjourney for children and a Midjourney for adults. That way you don't limit the adults to what would be perceived by children. And you also are able to define the kind of language that would be suitable for children and the kind of things that they would like to say that might be considered NSFW, but children would do it anyhow. Like, they might want to render poop. Even though you think that's awful for children to render poop, to them that might be a way of them having fun with it, because they can render poop or they can render dog poop. Those things seem uncivilized, but children do it, do they not? And so they don't offer that for the children. They limit the adults according to what they think the children are going to be sensitive to. And you don't do that for any other kind of venue in the world. You don't limit what a nightclub can do so that it's suitable to children. You know, if somebody's going to bring their kid into that nightclub, they're not permitted for, you know, and then the adults don't feel limited by what their kids, you know, doing things that, they have to be concerned about their kids. You see, at night they're going to be in their room. Their kids are not going to be around. They're going to be doing something in Midjourney, and they're going to want to do what they want to do, possibly with their wife or whatever. And they're going to be doing some NSFW content, inside of Midjourney, and they should be able to do that, but they don't give you that option. They control their culture, their worldview is limiting what you can do, which is sinful. You should never limit what other people do based upon your worldview. You should give them the freedom to do what they want, even if it's sinful, just as long as it doesn't encroach on anybody else's territory, and that is to have their privacy. And Midjourney, those guys have already invaded my privacy because they've already revealed what they know of the stuff that I've done on their service. They said I've already already gone against their terms of service, so I'm not agreeing to the contract or anything, but that they know about that and that they are kept tabs on that kind of stuff. I see that as an invasion of privacy. And I think somewhere down the road, somebody's going to bite their ass off in quite a different way. And it's going to take a lot more off, and they're going to probably be eating a liquid diet. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say. It's my bone to pick with Midjourney, and I did it here because they didn't treat me suitably by just kicking me out of the chat session, which would have been more suitable. I might have gone up to member support and said that this stuff happened, but they didn't want me to go to member support. They didn't even want me to have access to the Midjourney bot. They really have a bone to pick with me on a very corporate level. So I was going to give it back to them on my YouTube channel. And if they don't like it, they can go fuck themselves.